I'm just going to invite you to imagine with me, speculate about Christmas. I'm thinking about the fact that Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem. Of course, all of that, as we said, was orchestrated by God, from wicked and evil and insane Herod to Caesar Augustus to Quirinius. All of those are put in place to make that happen, to bring them to this place at this time. Could have done a lot of different ways, but that's how God does things. He uses the natural to accomplish and to fulfill the supernatural. And but the question I've had is, why was there no room when they got there? Of course, there were a lot of people. If you had people coming back to Arnold that had to be registered, that were born here, man, the town would become a big city all of a sudden, wouldn't it? Because of all the connections and family ties that tie back to this little bird called Arnold, Nebraska. So it was with Bethlehem. But here's the thing. I was thinking that if I went back to my birthplace, particularly in those days, there was usually a city of origin or a place of origin where most of the family remained. They stayed there. And so Joseph was returning to this city of origin. And, you know, if I ever went to a town where I had relatives, at least a lot of relatives would be angry with me if I tried to stay at a motel. I remember growing up with the Knowles. Sometimes we'd come in the middle of the night. We wouldn't wake them up. We'd sneak in. We'd all crash out on their floor. There was always an open door, and so it was the other way around. And so that makes it even more interesting that they even went to the inn, let alone there was no room for them in the inn. It might have been a cousin that owned the inn. Who knows? At least someone that knew someone that was related. That's the way it goes in small towns, right? But there was no room. I think the backstory may have been there was no room for them with family. The family had shut off their relationships because, well, it was a shame. Mary, the betrothed wife, was pregnant before they were married. And they didn't know. I mean, they couldn't know that it was the work of God and that she was not unfaithful or immoral. But morality was a very high standard, and it was a very expected standard to keep. And the consequences of violating it were very, very great. And so they didn't want her, in my estimation. They didn't want Joseph in their homes. Well, so that put them in a stable. In a stable. The lowliest place is the place you keep your animals. It wasn't just a rundown motel. It wasn't a shady inn. It was a stable. Which probably was the greatest example of the two narratives of heaven and earth colliding. It was there at the stable where God showed up in person. And I think the reason wasn't just because of the prejudice of family and friends. It wasn't just because it was a crowded town, but because God wanted us to know that no one was too low, no one was too poor, no one was too humble to encounter the Christ child. That's where God's finger really changed the history of all mankind. Well, some speculation. Help me out. Blessings to you as you prepare for Christmas. I'm all sore and stiff. Kudos to those that work with your muscles and your hands every day. I've been busy as an elf in a workshop trying to put together some woodworking projects for Christmas. I like that because it's a way to to pour your love physically into a gift and to make it more than just about buying stuff, but about giving of yourself at Christmas. And then it reminds me, too, that Jesus and his dad were carpenters. God bless you guys. Merry Christmas.